it's me, Vera V. I'm a full-time creator and entrepreneur. Also, I'm training for my first ever half marathon, which is why I'm particularly excited for this podcast episode. And I recently reached a very big fitness goal that I'll be sharing about here, where I completely transformed my body and also my health. Welcome to my Launch to Success podcast, where I'm empowering your growth in life and business. This podcast episode is all about how to start working out consistently and love every second of it, where I'll share my personal story and my personal history with exercise, from wanting to be a professional to then quitting to then what happened later. We'll find out soon. And also I'll share my 5 top tips to actually work out consistently, what works for me and what has worked for people that I know. Before we go deeper, remember to follow or subscribe to my podcast, and new episodes come out every Tuesday at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So be sure to leave a review right now. I'm watching you right now. Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Launch to Success with Vera V. First and foremost, where am I at with working out right now? Well, I work out consistently, meaning every single day, unless I have a rest day, so that means 6 times a week, pretty much. Sometimes 7, sometimes a little bit more if I want to go double. But honestly, I have not been able to go double workouts. I used to do that in the past, not anymore, because I'm training for my first ever half marathon, which I'm literally so excited about. So I'll talk about that for a second. But then also something I want you to know is that I joined a very cool gym. Today was literally my first day, so happy August 1st if you're watching this upon release. It's the coolest gym literally in the world. I've dreamed about joining it for so long, and now obviously able to because of my entrepreneurship. That's what I love about being a content creator. If you want to watch more content about content creation, how to grow organically, start making money on social media, then be sure to check out my other podcast episodes, because Launch to Success is all about empowering your growth in life and in business. So a half marathon, for those of us who do not know, is 13 miles. Actually, I believe it's 13.1 miles, which is like, it may seem like, okay, 13 miles, like whatever. It is a lot. I ran 7 miles like 2 days ago. It was the longest run I ever did, 7 miles, and I almost died. It was so tough. It was really fun, but it was so tough. So that's just where I am right now with exercise. I feel like it's a very good spot with exercise. Personally, I love working out so much. There's a time where I didn't, and we'll talk about that. But right now, it is one of my favorite things literally ever. It is my self-growth non-negotiable. Like, if anything, I always work out daily. That is my thing that I do all the time. And with joining the really cool gym, what's really important with working out and working out consistently, and we'll get to it, it's one of the tips, but I'll expand on it later on, is having a community that is also caring about their well-being. So the gym that I joined, it is very it is, you know what kind of gym I'm talking about. It's like a fancy gym. It's a good gym. I took a tour in it, I think in January, and then time flew by because I can't believe 6 months have passed since I literally stepped my foot into it for the first time. But as soon as I walked in there, I knew that I wanted to join someday. And it seemed like such a faraway dream, even though logistically it was possible like for a while. But we've talked about this, but Gen V, it's time I complete. I'm very, like with spending, I'm very conservative with it. You know, I'm like, do I really need this? Do I really need this? And also another thing is I have a hard time kind of treating myself to things, because if I don't need something where I'm literally on the brink of death, if I do not get it, I do not ever get it for myself. You know what I mean? And that's something that I'm definitely working on, because it's important to invest into yourself, and not just invest into yourself, like looking at yourself like you're a business and investing into your skills. That's great. I do that too. But it's also important to invest into your happiness, your well-being, your mood. Just make sure that you love every second of the life that you're living. You know, that's a really cool thing. So with this gym that I joined, the community there is really strong. It is full of highly successful people, which is amazing, because if you want to be successful, here's a little tip. Surround yourself with people who are more successful than you, or with people with the level of success that you want to acquire yourself. It works like a charm. Because also another thing with that, but many people do not know this, but something we have in our little minds is mirror neurons, right? So essentially, for example, if you spend a day with me, which honestly would be like a really fun thing. Gen V, if any of you want to do that, go ahead. It's going to be like a cool little thing. Well, anyway, if you spend a day with me, chances are I'm going to start rubbing off on you, right? You're going to start copying subconsciously things that I do and my way of thinking and my mindset, so forth and so on. That is because of mirror neurons. Also because in evolution, we as humans are meant to adapt. Like essentially, we stick to the flock. You know what I mean? That's just how we are. So if the kind of flock that you choose, and you're always going to have a flock, no matter what kind of flock it is, you're still going to stick to people and try to like assimilate in that culture. If you choose a highly successful flock, then what's there for you to do? To become successful as well. You know what I mean? So that you fit in subconsciously. Once again, it's not always a super conscious process. So I'm very happy about joining my gym. I went to it today. I had a upper body day, worked out my back, my chest, my arms, my biceps, triceps, anything. I also did my core, my abs. I love it. I fell out of my core not so long ago, but I'm getting back into it. Running was like 99% of my focus, but you know what? I'm diversifying now. And then because this gym is so amazing and so big, and oh my gosh, I'm in love. I am in love. Best decision I made, literally, I think maybe ever. Well, last month, let's just say that. But also after my workout, I was able to work, and it was just a beautiful, wonderful day. So this is where I am right now with exercising, with fitness. Now, let's talk about my history with exercise. So this is gonna get a little bit, there's gonna be a lot, okay? A lot of information, a lot of things, a lot of emotions, just a lot of everything. And by the way, okay, so obviously if you don't know me, or if you're hearing me for the first time, hello. I feel like I've been talking to you like we're best friends on FaceTime. So sorry, I need to maybe formally introduce myself. I'm just kidding. So I'm a full-time creator, and primarily what I started my account on essentially was self-growth. It was all about like self-improvement, blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of working out in there, obviously, because I feel like it's such a prevalent part of self-growth, self-bettering yourself, fitness, physical well-being, mental well-being, all of that stuff. Well, so a lot of you know me from that, and honestly, one of the biggest, most frequent questions I ever get asked is, what's your workout routine? Vera, share your workout routine. And I've been getting asked this since literally the beginning of time, and I've never really shared this in depth, which is so interesting. I don't know why, but I just never did. So maybe this video will find out, but we'll get to it. Anyway, so my history with exercise, I started gymnastics when I was around 4 or 5 years old. I think maybe I was 5 or 4. Thing is, when I was younger, like very young, like not even a toddler, like when I was a baby, my dad would always stretch me out. Because you know how with kids you can do like little gymnastics with them, you know what I mean? So with me, my dad would always do that. And I came out to be pretty flexible, which is a really great thing. So when I came to gymnastics, I learned how to do splits pretty much right away. I was honestly top of that gymnastics class. And by the way, it was not gymnastics like the American gymnastics you're thinking of, or I guess not American, sorry. That's probably in many countries, but I was doing rhythmic gymnastics. Okay, so it's a slightly different sport. And so with rhythmic gymnastics, personally, I loved it because once again, I was good at it. Like I had a good time. I was very committed, disciplined, even at my little, as my 4-year-old self. But a vision I distinctly remember is when we would go to practice, because it was all in this one big gymnastics gym, right? I remember seeing older girls, like maybe 14 years old, 13 years old. And to me, they're old because I was like 4, And I remember one of their feet was on this, it's like stairs that are mounted to the wall, right? So that you can climb on them, you can like hang off of them, but you could also put your foot up on them, kind of like a bar if you think about ballet. One foot was there, the other foot was on the floor. They were doing an oversplit, and like the trainer, the gymnastics coach, was sitting on them to make sure that they stretched out. So gymnastics, rhythmic gymnastics, at least in Russia, because that's where I'm from, that's where I grew up, for half of my life. Or actually, yeah, less than half of my life now. Well, it's very close to being 50%. It is very intense sport. There's certain specific requirements that need to be fulfilled. So the reason why I stopped gymnastics about after a year or so, and I was pretty good once again. Like I never got to the tricks part. I never got to play with the ribbon or like flip the ball around. If you know anything about rhythmic gymnastics, you know what I'm talking about. But I was good and I had a lot of fun and I won the competitions and whatever. Like the little ones. Once again, it was nothing crazy. But the reason why I quit is because one day the gymnastics teacher, by the way, she was amazing. She held our attention so well. She did like a little conference for students and parents. So it was my dad was there, all the parents were there, all of us were here. And then she was like talking about stuff, blah, blah, who's doing good, who's doing not. And then she was like, Vera, come up to the front. And I was like, okay. And I remember this distinctly, I remember this. And she points at me, she points to my stomach, and she's like, this is an example of a fat child. And I was like, ooh. And with that, it sounds horrible. It sounds absolutely horrible. But I think what she meant is this is an example of a fat child for gymnastics, which once again, Russian rhythmic gymnastics, they have super strict standards. It's like the same with ballet. With Russian ballet, it is very strict. Your neck needs to be this certain length. Your arms need to have this certain circumference, whatever. It is very strict. So at the time, obviously, I was a little bit confused. I was like, what? Like, all right. But that is why I quit, because at this point in my gymnastics career, I had to go on a diet in order to be able to, compete later and develop my gymnastics career, which obviously as a 4-year-old, my parents did not want me to do that, like go on a diet, because you're 4 years old, like you're still growing, you're developing, what the heck? So I quit gymnastics, but I still remain flexible. I can still do splits if I practice a little bit more. I mean, I'm fine. Like I don't have the greatest splits right now, but I still kind of have them, so it's not that bad. So that was gymnastics. Now, after gymnastics, or I think right after, something like that, I started tennis. And tennis was a very big part of my life because I started it when I was, hold on, I took notes. I was 46 years old, okay? And I started it in Russia, which is important because Russian technique is super different from the American one. I actually wanted to be a professional tennis player, which when I say I'm passionate about working out and fitness, like it's kind of been like that since day one. Obviously, I've had my rough patches. There were days, if not months, where I did not really work out or when I absolutely hated it. I remember this one time when I was like 13, and we'll get to it, a little foreshadow. But I remember asking my dad, I was like, so dad, when you're older, like the amount of time that you spend working out, it has to be longer, right? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, please. Say psych right now, please. Because I just hated it. I was like, how can anybody find this fun? Like, it just sucks. It just sucked for me, which now looking at it, I'm like, you do not have to beg me to work out. The only thing is with working out right now, I could honestly do it all day, every day. But the only thing with, also, I love teaching people. Sorry, little side note, but I love teaching. If I had like an extra life, I would be a fitness instructor, which in this life I do not want to be, because I feel I want to do other things. I like empowering people to work out, but like educating, that's not really my thing in fitness. I like educating in business, social media, and that stuff. But if I had another life, I'd probably be a fitness trainer, because it's so much fun. It is so much fun, and I love so much about it. I'm literally an expert. Anything and everything, ask me, I know. Well, anyway, also let me reposition myself. My back hurts actually from running the 7 miles. That was intense. That took a toll on my body. So if I lean back, do not mind that, please. I'm just very tired today. I had to work out as well. Okay, well now, with tennis, so I started playing at like 4, 5, or 6 years old, somewhere around there. I have no idea exactly when. But then we moved to United States of America, which for tennis actually was great. And I think one of the reasons why my parents chose to move from St. Petersburg, Russia, specifically to California, USA, is because of tennis. Because I remember, like, I wanted to be professional. You know, my family thought I was also going to be a professional tennis player. Like, I was very set on it. Set in my ways in a good way. So it was either USA or Canada. So I'm very glad that we moved to California, because I love it. I cannot imagine living literally anywhere else. My favorite state to live in, probably ever. So we came here, I guess I was 9 years old or so. I don't remember much with working out specifically, like, because when we first moved, we had 3 weeks to a month to just adjust to being in USA before school started, so we did that. But I don't remember working out exactly. Probably we did, because I remember growing up, even before we came to America, when we were on vacation, we went to Cyprus one time with my family for like 2 months, which is such a long time. So when I was still living in Russia, right? And I remember it's vacation, but it was just super active vacation. Like, we were swimming every day. We were eating like crazy because we were burning off so many calories just by working out. We played tennis every day in scorching heat, because my dad is very set on exercise. That's all him, all his influence. He's like very much get off your ass and work out, you know, which is really good, because honestly, there's nothing better than just being active and being able to be active, and we'll get to that. So the point is, when we moved here to USA, I was still playing tennis, and then my dad found a coach. I remember the guy's name, my ex-coach's name, and there's some history there. We'll talk about that in a second. But I remember my first ever tennis practice, and this is so funny. It is literally the funniest thing when I think about it now. So once again, I had Russian technique, okay? And Russian tennis technique, it sucked. It just like very different. It's like you hit it, if you're watching me on YouTube right now, you hit it literally like this. Like, what? That's not the way that it should work, you know? American technique for tennis is obviously different in a good way, because top players are from America and like other countries too, I suppose. I don't really follow tennis anymore, so I have no idea. But basically, I had that first tennis practice, okay? I don't remember much. I don't remember what happened, but I think it was just like playing, conditioning. It was maybe an hour and a half or like 2 hours or so. And my parents came to watch, and I remember looking my parents dead in the eye and saying, I'm gonna die. Because it was tough as hell. It was tough as hell. But that moment when I looked into my dad's eyes and was like, I'm gonna die, this is where a fire lit up under me. And that fire changed my life forever, because it still burns in my soul. And that was so poetic, wasn't it? But genuinely, tennis and being with that tennis coach in that tennis environment, that taught me to love overcoming myself. And when I say overcoming myself, I mean pushing through. I mean showing up for myself when I don't feel like it. Showing up for myself when I'm in a bad mood. Showing up for myself where I don't feel exactly well, but showing up for myself over and over and over and over again, even if it's painful at the beginning. I learned to love that pain. And to this point, I very much love that pain still. I was with a friend, and she was like, I think we were talking about fitness and exercise, and I was teaching him how to roll out, because he had just finished a half marathon, which is really funny because I'm running a half marathon too. Well, anyway, I was teaching him to roll out. I was like, here's how you do it. Like, recovery is super important, obviously. Like I said, I'm an expert with fitness exercise. I'm not a certified coach or anything, but I know my stuff. I know my shit. So I was showing him, and he was like, so Vera, when did you start loving the pain? And I was like, what? What do you mean? I don't love the pain. And he was like, and I was like, yeah, okay, true. And I just genuinely love that pain, which is not in like a weird way, not like, oh my gosh, I hope I injure myself during tennis. Not like that. But point is, it's when you learn to love the suffering, right? Because essentially exercise, a lot of it is suffering, which in the moment sucks. But personally, I've never regretted a workout after I finished one. That's a philosophy I live by. So leaning back into my chair because my back hurts. With tennis. I guess I was 9 years old, 10, 11, I don't know. So point is, actually I quit tennis at 11. Foreshadow, but 9 years old. So I remember during summer, we would have like summer camps essentially, right? So I would be playing tennis for like 4 hours a day. There's also conditioning in there, which by the way, I loved. The amount of suffering, because conditioning was at like maybe 11 a.m., maybe 12 p.m. So it's kind of later in the day. And I live in Southern California, okay? It gets like to be around 100 degrees Fahrenheit here. It is maybe 32, 34, 32 degrees Celsius, a lot. It is very hot. It is scorching hot. And so obviously conditioning is very hard. Like, who wants to go and do push-ups in 100-degree heat? Nobody. But I did. I loved that suffering. And I remember with the conditioning teacher that we had, she would come up to like me and my dad all the time and be like, Vera, you're doing such a good job. Like, you're genuinely at the top of our little tennis class. And I was like, yeah, I know. Because I remember also for tennis, at one point we went to CrossFit, like to do CrossFit. Everybody was dying. So was I. But guess who kept pushing through? Me, because I learned to love the suffering. Now, on tennis, what's another very important topic is that when I was 11 years old, I had to make a choice because I was choosing my career, obviously, as any 11-year-old does. And I was like, okay, do I go into music or do I go into tennis? Because I knew that I wanted to pursue music, like it was somewhere in there, but also with tennis, like I've been playing it my whole life, so what should I do? And it was such a tough choice for me. I have no idea why, but it just was. But I think one of the points that kind of pushed me over towards music and to quitting tennis, which I did not expect to quit tennis, it just kind of happened, was that I remember the coach that I had. I remember that I was talking to you about. I'm very grateful for him for all that he's taught me, obviously. I've not been in contact with him for 8 years. Like, I don't know what's happening in his life at all ever since I quit. Or he doesn't know anything about me either. But I remember when I was like 11 years old, my technique was fixed, right? Because it was like a year and a half being with him and being coached with him, and besides just group lessons, I also had privates with him. Like, I was very set on it, but he always treated me kind of weirdly. I don't know why, but he just kind of did. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but for example, when I went to the tournament with my little tennis team, which by the way, it had a lot of players that were better than me. Like, for example, with that coach, let's just call him Coach John. Okay, that's not his actual name, so let's just go with that. Coach John, one of his top players, she goes to UCLA now. She's my age, for tennis, because she was like number 13 in California. So he coached some good ones, good coach. But for me, when we went to Indian Wells, for example, all together, all of us, me and the better players, and I think I was like one of the worst in the group. Well, anyway, we played tennis. We had like a little tennis practice there as well, because obviously we came as a little tennis team. And while I was picking up balls, because he told me to, they took like a group picture. And I later saw it on Instagram. And I was like, what? I don't remember being in that picture, because I wasn't. Or we had a tennis photo shoot with the teams. And my younger sister also played tennis. She got into it. And we were in the photo shoot. They literally cut us out. Like, for the website, for the social post, they cut us out. I'm not in it. Which, like, why? It's weird. Just weird. So he treated me like that. Not that he was aggressive towards me or like he said anything, but it was just weird. I felt like he didn't really believe in me. Because, for example, when I was 11 and I was like, okay, like, I want to be a professional tennis player. Before I made that choice to switch into music, I was super set on it. I even talked to my dad. I was like, Dad, can we arrange a meeting with me and Coach John and you so we can talk about my prospects as a tennis player? Because I'm super passionate about it. Like, I never get put on the higher courts. I'm always on the lower ones, which, by the way, that is fine. Okay, I believe in working your way to the top, but I was always with players who were literally worse than me. How am I supposed to progress? We talked about community in the beginning of this episode, how important it is to be surrounded by successful players. And I'm not saying, because, okay, with that, I don't know how, I guess maybe that's how all tennis coachings work. I don't know. But for that one, it had like courts. So the first court was obviously the best one. Top players were there. Second is the same. And then it just goes down. I was on the lower ones all the time. Literally lower than me were the kids, which they were younger than me by 3 years, so there was no point in putting me in them. But he would always put me on the lower courts, and I didn't know why. And so we had the conversation. I remember it was before my tennis practice, like we sat together and I shared my concerns. And back then I was shy. Right now, probably I would have been like, sir, you're not hearing me, sir. But I feel like right now I would have been a lot more direct. But back then I was like 11, a little bit struggling with my English, still shy, super shy at tennis, by the way, like never spoke a word. I don't know why, but I just was. So he was like, yeah, for sure. Like, we'll start putting you on the higher courts because I see what you want, blah, blah. And then he just didn't. My only solace with that tennis coaching was there's this one coach who was Russian. And she got me, like, she understood me. She came over to our house a bunch of times because we were all like, I don't want to say friends, but she kind of felt like a family friend, But then I think we had some sort of, not argument, but like a falling out. I don't remember what exactly because I was 11. And that, I think, also pushed me over the edge. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do tennis anymore. So, you know how it starts? I started faking sick. I was like, I'm such a cough, Dad. I can't go to tennis practice. Sorry. Like, it's the cough. I would go, but the cough, like I just can't. And then I just eventually stopped going because I had an academic commitment. I was in pentathlon, which is an academic competition, which was a good time. I liked pentathlon. It was really cool. And I was like, I can't make it on time. And then I just quit. Never played really since until I joined varsity tennis, which we'll talk about. That was tennis, right? And thinking about it then, my heart hurts for my 11-year-old self because the coach did not believe in me. And honestly, I had a lot of potential as an athlete. I'm a very athletic person. And I think for tennis, I could have been really good. But looking back at it now, what I do for a living now, where I am right now, I'm so glad that the coach did not believe in me. Like from the bottom of my heart, good thing. Because if I chose tennis, I don't know where I would be. You know, I would not be here probably, which is really interesting. So after I quit tennis, after 11, I did not really exercise for like a period of time. Obviously, my dad would like make us do stuff, so I would, but I didn't have the inner thing to exercise. So I remember when I was like 13, I had an era. It was a long era where I would eat half a bucket of ice cream and then I'd go for a run, like to burn it off. It was not a healthy relationship with food. I think I binged a lot. I wouldn't say I had an eating disorder of any kind because I don't self-diagnose, but like it was just not a good time. Because I remember one time my grandma sent us chocolate cakes, like the Russian waffle chocolate cakes. She sent us 5. I hid them and I ate them in 3 days. 3 days! 5 chocolate cakes! Waffle ones! 3 days! I don't even know how many calories each cake has. And the reason why I'm talking about calories is not because like, oh my gosh, calories, but the fact that calories is energy. And logistically speaking, at 13 years old, I was not needing this much energy. Like I just wasn't, you know? Which right now, I'm all about intuitive eating, truly. And I feel good. I look great. It's a good time. But that was the thing. Then 14, 15, I got into my cardio era. I started going to the gym. It was a good time. I didn't really know anything about like weightlifting that much, but I did some, but it was just bad. Then at 16, I started weightlifting. Okay, like I was weightlifting. I would go before school, and I remember I came to my parents. I was like, guys, I want to get into weightlifting. And my dad was like, you're going to get bulky. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it. Which is so funny, the concept of you're going to get bulky from weightlifting. Girl, please. To get bulky, the amount of energy that you need to put into this, no. So if you're afraid of working out because you're going to get bulky, cut that BS out. Cut that BS out. We all know it's BS. It's not going to happen unless you genuinely want to get bulky. So yeah, I started weightlifting at 16. My technique was horrible. I only got good at it at like 17, which is where my passion for working out ignited. I would go 2 times a day. I would also be playing tennis for funsies because I joined a varsity tennis team in my high school, which is like a full circle moment. But what really transformed my weightlifting game for me is because, first of all, I'm an avid learner. If you can't already tell, I love learning. I retain a lot of information and I retain it quick. And so my older sister, she started working with personal coach, right, for fitness specifically. And she learned the proper technique for weightlifting, which was very far off from what I was doing. How to protect your core, brace your core, protect your back, how your hips should hinge and how they should not. All that jazz. And guess who learned it as well? Me. And then afterwards, like 2 years later, we taught my younger sister how to do it as well. And then she taught my mom. So everybody knows now. But point is that all stemmed from that personal trainer that my older sister worked with. So thank you, Glayol. Appreciate it. Chances are she's not listening to this. But if she is by some miracle, then absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I learned a lot. And then I graduated high school early after 17 and I quit tennis and I gained some weight, honestly. If I think about it now, if I look at my pictures, and I felt really heavy. Like, okay, here's the thing. With gaining weight, for me, it's never about like, oh my gosh, like I look bad, whatever. Part of it is, if I'm being honest, because I like looking good. Like Jenny, I like being super toned and lean and whatever. I like that. I like that look of myself. But the biggest thing for me is that I like feeling light. Okay, I love feeling light. This is why I'm so into running now, because it allows me to feel light. And also it's fun. I feel like it's more fun than weightlifting, at least for me. Because weightlifting is super repetitive and running is just so different and you challenge yourself on a whole other level. I'm a fan. We'll get into this though. But with quitting tennis, I did not like the way I looked. But most importantly, I did not like the way I felt after I graduated. So I was like, what do I do? What do I do? So I set myself a goal. It's the goal that completely transformed my body with where I was versus where I am right now. I look so different. So I'm like a different person, truly inside and out. And a lot of people ask me, a lot of you join Vera, like, Vera, how'd you lose weight? How'd you lose weight? Well, my goal was never to lose the weight, I'll tell you that. My goal was to feel lighter. And losing weight was just a consequence of that. Which is kind of the same for like money, for example. You're like, oh my gosh, I want to make 10K a month. Okay, but what kind of lifestyle is that going to fuel? We talked about that a lot in my previous podcast episodes, so be sure to check that out. But point is, with my goal, and I want to reiterate, losing weight was not the goal itself. It was just a consequence that was going to happen because I wanted to feel lighter. And so I started my journey, I would say in like July, It was pretty stagnant in July. And what I started doing really is I just became very mindful of the calories that I was consuming, of the food that I was eating, to make sure that was fueling me and it was not excessively fueling me. Because once again, it's all about what your body needs. Because if you think about it this way, there are two sides to the coin, right? And this may be very direct, but I'm going to say it because this podcast is about expressing myself. So if you're not eating enough, right, with your body, you're essentially not doing good to your body because your body doesn't have enough energy to function. But also on the flip side of things, if you're overfeeding your body, you're giving it too much energy, you're also not doing good to your body because your body does not need that much energy to function. So it has to store as fat. It's like an extra step. But if you eat intuitively and you genuinely listen to yourself, not to your like cravings or whatever, but you listen to yourself, to what's going to make you feel good and what's going to make you look good, if that's also your goal, then you do good for your body, because it doesn't have to take that extra energy of like, oh my gosh, we have no food, what do we do? But also on the other side, it doesn't have to be like, okay, well, we have way too much, so what do we do here now, So I'm very big on intuitive eating. So I started eating less. Essentially, this is what it is. People are like, how do you lose weight? How do you lose weight? It is super simple. Caloric deficit. And then you have little formulas that come from that. So for example, if you're just eating less calories, you're probably going to lose fat, but then you're also probably going to lose muscle, right? But if you're eating less calories, caloric deficit. So caloric deficit is when you're eating less than you're burning. You're consuming less than you're burning. So if you're eating less than you're burning, but you're also consuming a lot of protein, you're going to retain muscle mass, especially if you also weightlift simultaneously, and the fat is going to go away. This is how you lose the weight. It doesn't, like, there's not much to it, but a big thing of it is also mental. Because I noticed for myself so many times in my life where I wanted to lose weight for whatever reason, and it just wasn't happening. Like at 15, I really hit rock bottom where I hated the way I looked. I was just like, I don't like myself, and I don't know if I can do anything about it. Why is nothing changing? Like I work out so consistently, I eat clean, whatever. But all of it is truly mental. Because when things started changing up for me, I just let go of that situation mentally. I was not like, oh my gosh, I have to lose weight. Oh my gosh, I just let go. I was like, I want to feel lighter. Like I'm focusing on that, but I'm not thinking about it 24/7. I just trust myself to reach my goal, And that works with literally everything. It's the same thing, for example, with relationships. People are like, love comes knocking when you least expect it. And that's kind of true. Obviously, you have to take actions towards it. If you just stay stuck in your room, love's not going to find you. Sorry, but it's true. It's just not going to happen. But if you take specific actions, like for example, you're like, okay, I make a dating profile, I go on 3 dates a month, whatever, you're taking specific actions, then chances are it's going to happen when you're ready. Same thing with that goal, for example. So that goal really changed things up, and now I'm in my slaying runner Vera era right now. I love running so much. It is the focus of my workouts. I'm training for my first half marathon that is happening at the end of October, which is amazing. Also, let me sip some water. And also, another side point is I'm staying super hydrated. Like I drink a lot of water, which is amazing. Amazeballs. Now, why is working out important? Well, I wrote a list of reasons. So first of all, it improves your brain health, which is obviously great. It helps manage your weight. You reduce the risk of disease. You strengthen your bones and muscles and improve your ability to do everyday activities. And also, endorphins get released, which is why you hear of the runner's high, you hear everything. It just endorphins getting released, which is an amazing feeling you get after a workout, right? For me personally, why do I work out? Because for me, exercise is a love language to my body. Because I think about it this way. In evolution, if you think about evolution, how we were when we were, what would be the correct term? It's like hunting, gathering, whatever, doing that stuff. We were not static. We were not sitting on our couches staring at screens for 6 hours a day. We were not doing any of that. We were active. We were moving. So I like to honor that in my daily routine as well. Obviously, I'm not working out for like 7 hours a day because I don't want to dedicate that much time to it. I'm not an athlete. With at least 1 hour dedicated to my body, it's just a way of telling my body, hey, I love you and I appreciate everything you do for me. Because if you think about the amount of stuff that your body does for you that you didn't even have to think about. For example, you get sick. I was sick recently. You can still kind of hear it a little bit. I do not have to think about, okay, I'm going to be fighting off the sickness, whatever. My body just did that for me. When I'm hungry, I do not have to be like, well, how am I ever going to know if I'm hungry or not? My body tells me, and all I have to do is just listen. When I'm thirsty, when I'm feeling low, like there's just so many things that your body does for you. So exercise is just truly a form and a way to honor that. For me, it really pissed me off when I was younger when people are like, I hate working out. It was like, what? Like literally, what? I don't know the strange noise that I just made, but it's just a way of honoring your body. That's just such an amazing and beautiful thing, so why not do it? And there's truly no better feeling in the world than the feeling of, first of all, loving your body, which a lot of it is mental, but if you dedicate, once again, confidence, it's not a feeling. Confidence is an action. Okay, so if you want to feel physically confident, if you don't do anything to feel physically confident, if you don't work out, if you don't eat clean, if you don't do any of that, how do you expect yourself to be so? Like logically, logistically, it doesn't make sense. But if you take specific actions to work out, to move your body, to show your body that you love it, do all these things, then of course you're going to start feeling more confident, because confidence is an action. That's very important to know. And there's truly no feeling better than just the feeling of feeling your body. Like, for example, for me, I know what I'm capable of, and I like pushing my limits, but I love honoring that. I feel so light. I'm the lightest I've been. Like, if we're talking about weight, whatever, I'm the lightest I've been. I'm also the fittest I've ever been. My endurance is insane. When I ran the 7 miles, it was tough for, it was mostly my toes, because like you have to, if you have the proper running form, you run mid-foot. So a lot of your toes do the work. It was tough for me that way, but heart-wise, endurance-wise, I could have gone for longer. I could have honestly run the marathon, which eventually I want to do. I want to do the Boston one at some point in my life, maybe. But you have to qualify for specific times, so it's challenging. But I think it's gonna be cool. So just feeling your body, looking naked at yourself in the mirror, and just loving what you see. And once again, a lot of it is mental. You can still work out and like not like the way you look, so work through that. But confidence is an action. If you're not feeling confident, take actions and you will feel more confident, because it's just the way it works. And also with working out, why I love it, why it's so important to me, is that it balances out me mentally a lot. Because girl, if I'm not mentally balanced, I'm not mentally balanced. And emotionally too as well. If I'm ever sad or whatever, the only thing that can really get me out of a funk is just working out, which is why it is such an important part of my daily routine. Now let's talk about the 5 tips that you can take to stay consistent with working out. Actually, we covered all of them in this podcast episode already, but I'll just identify. So first is setting a goal. Okay, that is super important. And with goals, what's very important is to be specific. Because for example, when I started my running journey back in January, I was like, I want to run 9 miles in 90 minutes, which by the way, I came very close to when I was running my 7. Like I could have gone for that, which is sick. But I didn't really know what I was doing it for. And like I set it for June, 6 months away, and I didn't have that much time, or I didn't make that much time throughout the 6 months to train for it, and I didn't end up reaching the goal. So what's important is that your goal is specific, measurable, achievable, reasonable, and time bound. Okay, search that up, do your own research. But as a life coach, I can tell you that is crucial. All of my clients, literally every single one of them, who has set a smart goal instead of just like a goal, they have reached it. And obviously, if they put adequate effort towards it. So set a smart goal. With my marathon now, I'm running it on October 30th, which gave me originally like 18 weeks to train for it. I'm now on week, I think 6. I just started 6, which is really cool. Time flies. I can't believe it's been like a month and a half. But I gave myself plenty of time. I train adequately. I fit it into my schedule. I schedule my workouts. It's super important. So setting a goal is super important. 2 is creating a workout schedule. And I didn't want to say plan, because it's not like, well, I plan to do this. No, schedule. Like you put it in your calendar every single day. When are you going to work out based on your goal? Because once again, you can work out just for the sake of like working out and feeling good. But personally, I've noticed that there's a big difference when you're working towards a goal versus when you're not. For most of my life, I was not working towards any fitness goal. I just kind of did it to feel good, And then I wasn't seeing any progress, and I was wondering why, because I didn't have a goal. Once you set a goal, things start changing up for you. And a big thing is also habit stacking. So a lot of people are like, okay, well, how do I implement it into my routine? Whatever. What habit do you already have? Just think about this. Like, do you eat lunch every day at 1 p.m.? Great. Work out right after. It's called habit stacking from Atomic Habits. Look it up. It's a great concept that helps a lot. And now with workout schedule, a little update is my newest workout routine. It actually includes weightlifting as well. I used to just run for the longest time because once again, I told you that was my focus. Also, I'm exhausted right now. I'm sorry. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm like talking like, I'm just tired. Nothing personal. But well, anyway, I also incorporated weightlifting into my workout routine. So now for 2 days, I weightlift. For the remaining 3 or 4, I run, and then I have a rest day there as well, obviously. Just amazing. Third tip is to be in a wellness environment, okay? Be in a place where people are also working out. So for example, for me, it's my gym. I told you the community there is absolutely amazing. It's such a wellness vibe that I absolutely dig and love. Other ideas include online workout classes. When you see people working out, even if it's on Zoom, they're still working out. They're still inspiring you and pushing you to do the same. Or also if you go outside and then people are walking, running there, that's also inspiring. Local 5Ks are also great. I heard that from a friend. If you ever are like, oh, I want to run, but I don't know where, register for a local 5K. 5K may not seem like much, but hey, you can meet so many cool people, which brings me to point number 4, finding growth buddies. I don't like the saying accountability buddy because it's like accountability, but growth buddies like, hey, yay, let's go together, So with growth buddies, a very simple thing is you already hang out with your friends, right? Maybe you also hang out with your boyfriend if you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whatever. You also hang out with your family, chances are. So instead of just being like, okay, let's watch some Netflix, go on a hike, do like a hike date. For me, something I'm doing next weekend, next Sunday, I have a date and we're going on a 7-mile run because it's part of my workout schedule. I was like, hey, do you want to go on a 7-mile run? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, great. And then we're doing an ocean cold plunge and then we're getting breakfast afterwards. Tell me that doesn't sound like a dream. Obviously 7 miles, I think are going to wipe me out. I told him this. I was like, hey, if I'm dead by the end of this, I already told you. I told you at the beginning. But point is, it's an active day. Also with my friends, what I love to do is I love hikes. It is so much fun because you can catch up on all the see, but you could also stay active and like do something during it versus just being like, okay, let's sit down and like talk. That's boring, but working out is fun, especially when you do it together. So that we can motivate each other to do it together. Yeah. Then fifth, final tip is recovery. Recovery, it is so important. I cannot stress this enough. So first of all, what are cornerstones, keystones of my recovery? Do your own research, but first thing is, I would say definitely hydration. So electrolytes, also drink enough water. Electrolytes, you don't have to buy like a special powder for it. Although I do like some. I like the one, the mango hydration drink by Gainful. I did a partnership with them as well. They're absolutely amazing. I've been taking them well before we started working together. They're available at Target. Another thing that I like is Liquid IV is good. They send me their stuff. They just released their sugar-free ones, which is amazing. I also got this one scent hydration drink by, I think, a Korean brand. I honestly don't know what it's called because it's all in Korean. I unfortunately don't speak Korean. If you do, let me know. I'll tell you the name and then you can tell me what it says or how to find it. But that one's good. Also, for hydration, a really good thing that I started doing recently is I started drinking coconut water instead of the powders. Like, I'm just not feeling them anymore. I don't really know why. But coconut water contains magnesium, sodium, it contains electrolytes, and then also it contains potassium, which is really good for like everything. So that combination is just absolutely amazing. I drank it after my 7 miles, and then after my 7 miles, you'll be like, Vera, you must be so sore. Girl, no. Why? Because I recovered. I rolled out with a foam roller. I also did a lacrosse ball. I also did Theragun, like for your muscles, which helps so much. And now I'm not sore because recovery is super important. And also, obviously, getting adequate sleep, eating enough. I already talked about hydration. So that brings us to the end of this podcast episode. Hopefully it was helpful. If it was, make sure that you subscribe or follow this podcast. Leave it a thumbs up. Look at my polls. If you're watching this on Spotify or listening to this on Spotify, scroll all the way down, look at my polls, answer there, because I want to see if you want to see my actual workout routine for the week. If so, I'll make a little YouTube vlog maybe. Also, let me know if you work out daily. I'm curious because I definitely do, and I want to see how many of us there are. Otherwise, we're going together always. New episodes come out every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I'm going to go take a nap because I'm very tired. But remember to follow, subscribe, thumbs up, all that jazz. I'll see you next Tuesday. Yeah, stay active. Bye. Launch to success with Vera. V.